My name is Melvin Washington. I am originally from LA. I've been to Vegas since 2001. Big sports fan, all LA-based teams. So Lakers, Dodgers, Rams. Uh, Big, huge fan of those teams as well. Obviously, being in Vegas, we focus a lot more on the gambling side of everything. So, we're getting started. We have the Golden Knights here now, and we have the Raiders are coming in here next this year too as well. So, I'm excited. I actually host a show on Talk to Me Sports Radio. It's the first all black sports network. So I usually do my show on Fridays, but we're transitioning to do it on Saturdays now, just with everything going on right now. So do have a co-host. He's out of Indiana, so he gives you that perspective on the Midwest and everything like that. So we're just excited to have sports coming back. So definitely something excited, especially with the NBA coming back. So really look forward to hearing that too. Unfortunately, we were robbed of the NFL draft this year. I was really looking forward to seeing that in Vegas and seeing the whole stage at the Bellagio Fountains and seeing how they're going to transport the players back and forth. But at least we're getting an extra, so we can probably do even better than that before. So.
Well, now this is unique for me because normally I'm here in Vegas as well, asking questions of people throughout the country. And it's odd but cool to be able to say, okay, what's happening in your hometown? Because normally it's not here. So let me ask you this question. You said you've been here since 2001. For someone who's not a Las Vegas resident and doesn't quite get sports in Las Vegas, what are sports like here that may be different from elsewhere?
I think since Vegas was never known to have any professional teams, now we have three now with the Golden Knights, the Raiders, and also the Las Vegas Aces. We're starting to become one of those mainstream markets where, people can come to Las Vegas and actually attend a sporting event. Before it was usually just everything on the strip with gambling and everything like that. But now since we do have professional teams in the market, there's definitely another reason for people to come in. Obviously, we host the NBA Summer League every year, so that's always the big draw too as well. And with the Raiders coming in here, we be football. We get a bowl game every year, so it's definitely something that people can come out and enjoy in Vegas now instead of just gambling and partying on the strip and everything like that. So.
Well, one of the things that I've mentioned to people is it's not just the pro sports teams that are located here. It's also you have during college basketball season, you have the Mountain West tournament, the Pac-12 tournament, those kind of things. Like I said, the Las Vegas Bowl. You have rugby that goes on all the time with the major events. The NASCAR race out at the raceway. All kinds of the rodeo, and the National Rodeo comes to town. There's always something going on here. And I used to say it and people didn't buy it. I called Las Vegas the sports capital of the world and went, well, you mean the sports gambling capital of the world? I was like, no, it's getting to the point where it's going to be that. The next NBA franchise, however it shakes out, or the next one or two or three should probably end up here. I think we set up a good example for that. The only thing I don't think they did was when they built the new baseball stadium for the AAA team, they didn't make it expandable for a Major League Baseball team. But the way we put things together, that could happen relatively soon as well. So it's an interesting place to be, and I like it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think with Vegas being such a diverse background as it is, you have people from all over the country moving here. There's something out here for everybody. So it's definitely something that, that plays to the part where, anybody who has an interest in anything can definitely join it too as well. I know Las Vegas is a very huge market for the Super Bowl, for the NCAA tournament. So a lot of people actually come to Vegas instead of going to the local Super Bowl site or the NCAA tournament site because they get that feel and passion for everything that's within Las Vegas. So a lot of casinos do a lot of different things as far as like hosting parties. And then UFC was actually born in Vegas. So, we get the UFC too as well. Right. We get a couple cards every year, usually the big main draws too as well. So definitely something that plays a part in every aspect of life too. So
when I first started coming during Kentucky Derby week, Cinco de Mayo, NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, so everything happened all at the same time. So it's fantastic. Okay, so let's get into some specifics. You say you're an LA fan, right? Okay, let's stick with the NBA. Let's look at where we're at right now. NBA season coming back here. Hopefully, it's getting all pieced together. You have two LA teams that look like they should be able to do something. Are we Clippers or are we Lakers right now?
We're Lakers all the way. I've been a Laker fan since I was born. My mom got me the Laker uniform, and I've been there ever since. So,
okay. Now, what is the difference between those two teams as far as basketball is concerned right now? Why are the Lakers better? Not just because you're a fan.
I think the Lakers have a veteran presence that's been there before. You have LeBron, you have JaVale McGee, who's on those good Warrior teams. You have Rondo, who was with the Celtics during his prime years going against the Lakers. So I think we have a better veteran presence that we have. Obviously, with Frank Vogel being there, he was, two-time coach of the year when he was in Indiana facing against those Miami teams. And then you have, good assistants like Lionel Hollins and Jason Kidd, who's been there before, played there before. So I think overall we have a better veteran presence than the Clippers do, although they do have like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But, Paul George never played in the finals before. Lou Williams never played in the finals before. The only person who can probably say that is Kawhi Leonard. So, I think we have a better veteran presence than the Clippers do.
Okay, and looking at it, the way the NBA season is set up, or Orlando and all that, what do you think of that?
I mean, I think the main concern for Adam Silver is he wants to crown a champion this year. So he was trying to do anything that he best could do that. I definitely think, with this layoff, it's going to be a little bit rusty at the beginning of the process. But, I did like the format that they did, the 22 teams, all the series will be best of 7. I'll have an opportunity for those teams like in the 9th and the 10th spot, like the Blazers and the Suns, to have an opportunity to get an 8 seed. So I definitely think it's the best output that they could possibly do, and I'm really excited for it.
Okay, so now we're looking at a truncated playoff system, and then we're going to come right back and be able to start the next season. How does that affect what we're looking at for especially for an older player like LeBron James, or someone who's been in the league for a while? They don't get an off season really as compared to what it used to be, even though they played in the Olympics and other things like that. How is that going to affect the product, do you think, as far as moving forward in the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, I definitely think it favors of the young and upcoming teams like the Atlanta Hawks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Memphis Grizzlies, stuff like that. Somebody who has a younger core, but it also gives an opportunity for them to, this is kind of like their offseason right now. They haven't played since March, so they're coming back from July. So it's kind of the same span as, offseason that they normally get from June to October. So I think, definitely, it's going to be kind of like a lockout season like they did in 99 where they only played like 50 games. They had the playoffs, early and everything like that. So it's kind of like the same format as that. And then after that, I don't know how it's going to affect the Olympics next year. I don't know who's going to be playing in the Olympics next year or who's not because, that's a lot of basketball on their bodies too as well. So I don't know if you're going to get, like a LeBron James or those type of players to play in the Olympics this year. But we have a good young core of Olympic athletes who are willing to play. And I think it's definitely going to be beneficial for them. More basketball would never hurt. You know what I mean? It only helps you get better. So I definitely think it'll be a tough challenge. There might be some early lingering injuries, that starts to happen. But I think when the process gets going, everything gets better. I definitely think it'll be something that'll be beneficial for the NBA too as well.
Well, what I see is kind of a philosophical shift in how you build a franchise, at least to build a roster right now. Because it used to be, or at least some of the ideas were, I'll build through the draft. Well, first of all, we haven't had the draft yet, or we're not going to have the draft for a while, or whatever's going to play out there. But the guys you're drafting didn't get to play a complete season. Now, if you're talking one and dones, they didn't even get to be one. So you get a team, say like Atlanta or Phoenix, that's young as it is now, and then you add younger players that are even less basketball savvy than it used to be. You could look at a team that if you keep stockpiling younger and younger players, the maturity rate, it may be 3 or 4 years between now and when they can actually be able to show some kind of improvement on the court. Whereas if you have an older team that says, I'm just going to delve into free agency and get older players, but then you have that problem again of now you put a lot of miles on them, back-to-backs, not a lot of off-season. I'm just wondering about how you look at a team's makeup philosophically. There's a question in there someplace if you look hard enough. But I'm trying to figure out how do I build a roster now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely is going to, the GMs are going to have a lot on their plate, because they have to do scouting. They have to get ready for the draft. This draft class is actually pretty good too as well. So, so that's definitely something that they can look forward to as well. So if you happen to get a lottery pick, you're probably going to get a good player. And all those lottery pick teams are going to be younger teams, except for except for Golden State, who already have 3 established franchise players, and they're looking to add another piece to their core that they have. So I definitely think, these coaches will have a lot on their plate too as well. But I mean, it's exciting, you know what I mean? You get new players, they can play a little lockout season and then get ready. They have a full training camp at the beginning of next year. So I definitely think, a lot of basketball doesn't hurt, especially for these young guys. They get used to the playing the back-to-backs, the playing the 3 games in 4 nights, the road trips and the traveling and everything like that. So obviously it's on a shorter scale than it would be for a traditional NBA season. But, these college kids usually play like, somewhere up to 40 games anyway. So you put them in an NBA, in a lockout NBA season, which is going to be probably maybe 50 or 60 games, definitely more experience doesn't hurt.
Well, we also look at a new age of where we're going, that you play your high school season, then you play your summer AAU season, you go right back into training for your high school season. These guys are playing a ton of games as they're younger now anyway, so maybe that won't be as much of a situation as I think it would be, that you're playing a lot of games as it is, so you're used to that.
Yeah, and I think you might have the older veteran teams might use this next season that's starting in December. You might probably get a lot of load management, outs, especially with the older teams like the Clippers or maybe the Lakers or the Spurs, stuff like that. Some of those older teams with a lot of veterans on it, you might get a little bit more loads management, set time basis as well, so they can rest up for the playoffs as well. So.
Okay, now you mentioned you do a show with a gentleman in Indiana. When you're doing a show with someone from that part of the country, and I'm from Ohio, so I can say that without anybody getting mad at me, hopefully. How do you carry perspectives? How do you change from, or how does it change from what he sees to what you see as far as a LA fan to an Indiana fan?
Yeah, I mean, it just tells you about what, usually West Coast teams are all about, basketball is probably their bread and butter, obviously in California with football too as well. But, in Indiana, it's a basketball state. So they, Indiana Hoosiers, the Pacers, everything like that. It's a very high basketball state. Obviously, you got the Indy 500 there too as well. So it's a very, very high Q basketball state too as well. So, they got the Colts over there. He's actually a Philadelphia Eagle fan, so he knows everything about the NFC East and everything too as well. So he's a big Eagle fan. So we get that kind of perspective on that side of the country with the NFC East and everything football related over there, and obviously with, you mentioned the Kentucky Derbies over on that side too as well. So definitely different prospect of like West Coast to Midwestern, what their philosophies are as far as sports related too as well. So it's nice to get a different perspective on everything. So.
Okay. Now you mentioned him being an Eagles fan. Are we full blown Raiders fans yet, or are we still, let's see what happens?
I will go to a game or two, but my allegiance is still to the Rams. You know what I mean? I grew up a Rams fan. I went to games when they were in the Coliseum, so I'm excited that they were back in LA. They came in LA 3 years ago. They went to the Super Bowl, last year, unfortunately. Didn't go too well for them, but obviously we had a lot of roster shakeups with Todd Gurley being gone and Clay Matthews and them training Brandon Cooks. But, I'm excited to see what they have. Jalen Ramsey will have a full year with the Raiders. They got a whole new coaching staff. So NFC West is I will probably say the best division in football this year with the way what Arizona did this year with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray having another year. San Francisco, we just went to the Super Bowl last year. And then you have Seattle, who was, one game away from an NFC championship game. If that last regular season game, San Francisco, they didn't lose that game, we could have had a whole different playoff scenario going into the NFC playoffs next year. So I'm excited to see what the Rams do this year, especially with them open SoFi Stadium. I actually got tickets for that Sunday night game against Dallas in September for their first game. So I'm excited to go see that too as well.